Streaming bandwidth provided by worship channels. Live streaming made simple. Visit them online at worshipchannels.com. On today's Tech Help for Churches, what I'm learning about Google+. Welcome everyone to another episode of Tech Help for Churches. I, of course, am your host, Paul Allen Clifford, and I just want to encourage you to join the conversation by dropping me a line, paul@trinitydigitalmedia.com. If you prefer to leave a voicemail message, give us a call, 1-877-763-3246, or join the live chat. This show records every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on churchtechcast.com. So, let's get started. You might know that I quite literally wrote the book on using Twitter for churches. So, if you're interested in that, you can just go to amzn.to/tweetchurch. And that'll take you to the Kindle version of Tweeting Church, my second book. So I feel like I've got a pretty firm grasp on what exactly Twitter does. I understand them as a process. I understand how to meet new people on Twitter, how to build my following. I've got over 16,000 Twitter followers, so I feel pretty confident on that. Facebook, since it has this culture of people that you have met in the past that you've kind of lost track of or that you're friends with now, I don't know really how to meet new people on Facebook. So that's a place of growth for me, because I have a Facebook page. Actually, I've got like 3 or 4. But I don't know exactly what to do on that Facebook page to grow it. I've got around 600 friends on Facebook, and my slightly over 100 follows or likes, whichever it is, on my fan page. About 3/4 of those came from friends that I already have on Facebook, and the rest are me asking Twitter followers to like my page on Facebook. So really, that's not new people. Those are all people that I already interact with. So the question is, how do I get past that? And I really don't know quite yet, but I continue to look into it and try and figure it out. But Google Plus, I'm starting to get the hang of, especially since they added communities. There are a couple of communities on Google Plus that I participate in a few times a week. Not as much as I used to participate in some of the dedicated networks, communities, forums, etc. back in the day. But still, I tend to read them every day, and I'll at least interact a couple of times a week. And I've found that that's a good way to meet new people, is to go through the communities on Google+. Now, one thing that's great about Google Plus is, well, just the style of communication that it has. First off, there are threaded conversations. That's better than Twitter. While you can @mention back and forth, sometimes you get a little out of sorts as to what is being mentioned from when. Because, for example, occasionally I'll get an @reply or a mention based on something that I wrote weeks ago, and I may or may not actually remember having written it. So I have to go back and see what I wrote, and depending on how I'm interacting with Twitter, it might be easy or it might be difficult to figure out what I wrote that they're reacting to. So that's a bit of a problem. Whereas on Google Plus, it's right there. So I can see, okay, this is this, and this led to this, and this led to this. And so it's threaded conversation. I love that. Also, since it makes no pretense about being a network where you know people, you can do a lot of the similar strategies that I use on Twitter to meet new people, which is I follow them. If they're interested, they follow back. So on Google Plus, I can do the exact same. I can follow them, and if they're interested, they can follow back. Now, one of the downsides that I've noticed about Google Plus is they don't like cross posting. Now, while I will do some cross posting, typically that needs to be a smaller post because it's cross posting to Twitter, which is only 140 characters. But if I want to do something, well, so this is something that I'm planning on doing is occasionally I want to write something that doesn't quite fit in my corporate branding, doesn't quite fit in my blog. And I'm thinking, I guess I'm kind of thinking of Google Plus as a personal blog where I can get interaction one-on-one with people on different ideas. Now, with that said, let me explain kind of what I have in mind. So I do have kind of an interest in culture and the future, and I've been thinking about some of the latest news that we're getting and how that affects people in the church. So the homosexual marriage question, there was recently a story that in New York State, the police officers have been instructed that if they see topless women, not to interrupt them from whatever they're doing unless they're doing something that's illegal other than what we might think being topless, because in New York apparently there's what they call gender equality in toplessness. So that's different for most of us in the United States. So what does that mean? And so I've been thinking of some of these issues in relation to the church and how we would deal with them and maybe how we should deal with them. But that has not a lot to do with tech. So perhaps my blog isn't the right place to write about it, but it might be a good place to write about it on Google+. Not that I wouldn't want to appeal to a lower common denominator or anything like that. I'm just curious how this will affect us all in the future, because I do think kind of future thoughts a lot of times. So I think that might be a better place to write that kind of thing. So in my mind, Google Plus is a place where I can meet new people, have threaded conversations about whatever topic I want, join communities that are centered around the topics that I want to discuss, and basically grow my audience, my influence, people that I talk to, interact with. You see, two of my favorite communities are the Christians in Business community, and that's kind of fun because it's different from just tech. Occasionally I'll run across someone that's like, man, I don't know if I get this blogging thing. And for me, it's second nature, but they just need help in that area. But when it comes to selling products or, I don't know, bookkeeping, they're much better at it than I am. So that's a fun interaction. Then, of course, there's the church tech community, and on Fridays when I do church tech Church Tech Cast Q&A, at 2 p.m. Eastern, 8 or 11 a.m. Pacific on churchtechcast.com, I get a lot of the questions from there, and I get a chance to kind of fill them out. So Google Plus seems to have a lot of engagement. And now there's still a problem that it doesn't have quite the uptake that Twitter, Facebook, even Pinterest has. And we're going to talk about Pinterest in a couple of weeks. So that's something that is a potential downfall. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say, yes, it's a ghost town, because that's not true. That's a little media hype out there. I certainly don't think that I don't think that it's the case that Google Plus is dying or there's no one there. It's alive and doing fine, and there are tons of people there. But with that said, I'm a little concerned about the uptake. So, should a church have a presence on Google Plus? I think you should. But I think I would put it number 3 after Twitter and Facebook. Twitter for growing your influence, Facebook for dealing with, interacting, uh, talking about, learning about people you already know, and Google Plus kind of a fusion of the two. So I really think it has some possibility. I think once I really get the hang of it, because I'm not quite there yet, I might potentially someday write a book like a Google Plusing Church or something like that. Google Plus for churches, something like that. And we'd go from there. But really just think of it as another tool. It's another way that you can interact with more people. It's another way that you can go out and change eternity. Until next time, I'm Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com.